Hi, it's John. It's January 27, 2024. This is the same map that I showed in the last video, just putting it up for a few moments here to refresh our memory. This is the cluster of 5 and of the 5 crashes that I discussed in the last video. And what I'm going to add to everything I said in that video is this. I just did some additional research on them and confirmed from several sources that they were indeed, all 5 of these were mid-air collisions, okay? So, as I said, I confirmed that from multiple sources. They were all mid-air collisions. That's why they appeared as a cluster of 5. Because besides the significant numbers, all the dates featuring significant numbers that I went through in the last video, the so-called coincidences that I of course don't believe are actual coincidences. So I went through all that in the last video, but I wasn't sure beyond that why they appeared as a cluster of 5. On one map, because there were other crashes during that time period, including this year also in Alaska, featuring aircraft of various types, planes and choppers, right? So I thought that these 5 might have appeared on this one map as a cluster, of 5 on one map, because they were mid-air. I wasn't sure, but like I said, I just did more research on it, and I am sure now. They were indeed all mid-air, and again, this map was, same as I mentioned in the last video, this map was courtesy of ProPublica.org, and so is the excerpts from the story that I'm going to show you next. First, I'll start with the address bar. There again is ProPublica.org, so if you want to punch that into your address bar to read the whole story, you can do that. But I'm just going to focus on a few highlights from the story, what I think are significant points that make me think that indeed these were not accidents, that these were hacks and crashes, besides the fact that they all featured the so-called coincidental significant numbers that I discussed in the last video. But besides that, just the fact that they're all mid-air collisions is really significant. It makes me think that they were hacks indeed, because look what it says in this article, okay? Well, there's the headline, right, but more striking is what it says in the subtitle below. I'll read it. In the past 5 years, Alaska has had 5 fatal mid-air collisions involving commercial operators, in other words, commercial airplanes. Meanwhile, the rest of the U.S. hasn't had any since 2009, okay? So basically, I showed you on that map, the years for those 5 collisions were in less than 5 years. It was between 2016 and 2020, right? As the previous map mentioned, I can just to show that again. See, 2016 was the first one, and then 2020, August 27th, 2020 was the last one. So that's a period of less than 5 years, okay? So in that period of less than 5 years, there were 5 mid-air crashes in Alaska, which is a very, a very low population state, okay? And meanwhile, the rest of the U.S., during that same period of time, not just during that period of time, but even going back all the way to 2009, so that's even more time. That's like an additional 7 years on top of the years covered between 2016 and 2020. The rest of the U.S. did not have any commercial mid-air crashes, okay? None. With a population way huger, obviously, than the state of Alaska, right? So that is extremely suspicious there, right? And so next it says here, what I think is also an interesting point, that basically just to put it into better context, a little paraphrase before that, is that you know, these crashes, these 5 mid-air crashes, they happened in a state where they have uncongested airspace, right? I mean, really, much of Alaska has uncongested airspace. Even so, in recent years, it has had a series of mid-air collisions involving commercial operators. So I'm just reading there, right? And that series is, of course, a series of 5, right? As I just showed, right? So basically, add that, the fact that indeed it has mostly uncongested airspace, and those crashes were spread out through a lot of airspace, right? So basically, they happened in uncongested airspace. Meanwhile, the rest of the U.S. has much more congested airspace, obviously, right? Since the population density in the rest of the U.S. is much thicker than it is in Alaska. You know, a much higher density of population in the rest of the U.S. than it is in Alaska. So that is a striking point, right? You know, right there, the fact that it's uncongested. You know, it's basically just another way of saying, actually, if you think about it, that there's not a lot of people living there, right? Because you know, obviously, the higher the population, the more congested the airspace would be, right? So basically, you can look at it from, you know, the fact that the population's low or the airspace is uncongested. It amounts to the same thing. There's not a lot of people there, so there's not a lot of airplanes there compared to the rest of the U.S. Even so, 5 mid-air crashes there, with, you know, so few people living there compared to the rest of the country, right? So I really do think that that was done intentionally to give a hint by you-know-who, to say that he's in control, that he's hacking these, he's crashing these, and I think he picked this, you know, state to do it in. Well, one reason, because it's right beside BC, so if he wants to travel there for some of them to witness the crashes in person, that would make it more convenient for him, no doubt. But besides that, I think that, you know, another main reason he did it is because, like I said, you know, it really drives the point home that he's in control, because it's just so obvious that these, you know, that the odds are so low that these are actual accidents. I mean, this bears repeating like a million times. It really does. 5 mid-air crashes, 5 of them, in a state that's sparsely populated. And in that same period of time, an even longer period of time, going back all the way to 2009 in the rest of the U.S., no mid-air crashes at all, okay? So, you know, I mean, it's just, no reasonable person can look at that data and conclude that these are just coincidences. It's just not a reasonable conclusion. You know, the odds of that are maybe like, you know, 1 out of 1 billion. So that's not reasonable. I mean, and reasonable perspectives matter in the court of law, right? So, I mean, I think if this was in the court of law, I think you-know-who, including with all the other evidence, would be convicted of at least some of these. Anyway, it bears repeating, but this video is not going to be long enough to allow me to repeat it 1,000,000 times, even though that's how important I think it is. So you can just repeat it in your own mind if you want, every time you think about all this insanity that's going on with the hacking. Just think about, you know, and besides all the other suspicious crashes are presented in this series, I think it's really important to think about this one. I think this is, in terms of, you know, just one group of significant crashes, I think this is the most significant of all of them. I mean, the two MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019, those are really significant, and really suspicious, right? And I went through all those reasons in the early videos in this series. But I mean, this is really even more when you think about it. It really is, because, I mean, come on, these are midair, and there's 5 of them, right? I mean, at least the Maxes weren't midair, right? I mean, they had other similarities in terms of MO. They both went into dives, right? And all the other, and the other, so-called coincidences surrounding them. I went through all that in some of my earlier videos. So if you need a refresher course, they're still there. But really, this, I think this is even more significant than the MAX crashes or any of the other crashes, be they air crashes or surface vehicle crashes that I cover in this series. I really think that this is even more important, even more of a sore thumb, metaphorically speaking, that stands out among any of the other crashes. So I'll say it one more time before I say bye. Before I say goodbye for this video, I'll say it one more time. 5, right? 5. Count them on your fingers. 5 mid-air crashes in a period of only 4 years in a sparsely populated state. Meanwhile, during that same period of time, no mid-air crashes anywhere else in the States, where the population is obviously much larger than the state of Alaska. Right? So that's it. I mean, those are the facts. Those are the facts, and like I said, if you think about it from a statistical point of view, from a reasonable point of view, the chances of these just being coincidences, all of them, I think the chance of that is like 1 out of a billion. I think these are glaring demonstrations of arrogance and technical skill and lack of morals by you-know-who. That's it for now. Bye-bye.